Well, hello there. We should be live on Facebook. My technical team, the brilliant work of Zachary Raitz is telling me we should be on. I'm not seeing it on my monitor though. So we're good on this camera? Are we good on this camera? Give me the question marks. Yes, we're good. Well, it's very nice of you to join me this evening. Thank you. We're going to have an honest conversation about what to do when you want to give up. About what to do when you want to give up. I don't know how many of you have ever wanted to give up, but it is a difficult thing when you get there and you're trying to figure out what to do. And so we're going to have a conversation about this. And we'll do that. For me, there was a moment in my life, if you watched my kind of little promo video this morning about tonight's webinar, there was a moment in my life in 2005 when I definitely wanted to give up. Not just give up with my career, not just give up with my aspirations and my dreams, but give up on life. And so if you're joining me, and I know it's Memorial Day weekend, it's Memorial Day, and so people are traveling, and why would you do this on Memorial Day? Well, we're filming this and we'll put it on YouTube and it will be out there afterwards. But I was thinking, it's been a long day for some, and so maybe they're sitting on their couches or they're relaxing, and so maybe it's a time to join in and just kind of have a conversation about this kind of stuff. But here's the reality. Since 1995, I've served in churches, and I was a youth pastor for many, many years. And one of my passions as a youth pastor was to host events for students. I loved it. Lock-ins, bigger events, the better. And we would host these big, giant events. And so, honestly, we had nothing but success for 10 years. At the first church we worked at, we did a lock-in, and 75 kids came, and then 200 kids, and then 500 kids came, and we went to another church in Waterford, and we did the first one, and 800 kids came, and then 1,600 kids came, and then 20-some hundred kids came. It was crazy. And so the first 10 years of my ministry career, I had like one dream, and that was to work at a big church. That was it. I know, it's so prideful, it's so arrogant, it's so ridiculous, but that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work at a big church. And so finally, in 2002, I got the call, and I went to work at the big church in Metro Detroit area. And about 2.5 years in, I realized, wait a minute, I wasn't content with being at the big church. I wanted to run my own ministry. And so you could definitely see the weave of arrogance and the weave of pridefulness probably already in the short little time I'm telling this story. And so I started to plan an event with a friend of mine who is also a pastor, and we were going to leave our jobs and host this big, giant, mega event called Blitzfest. Now, mind you, for the previous 10 years, I had nothing but success when I did events. The only difference with this event was it was on a much bigger and grander scale. I actually went into my files, and I actually found the poster from Blitzfest. Look at this, Blitzfest 2005, featuring Skillet and 1,000 Foot Crutch and Pillar, and then all these other bands, Tate, Grits. I don't even know who most of these bands are. And so we hosted a big, giant event. And it was just absolutely crazy. Leading up to that event, Tracy ended up getting really sick, my wife. And for like months, she would put her hand in her side and she would pace the house at night. She couldn't sleep, and she was putting her hand like this. And so I always have slept through the night. I didn't realize that she was doing this until finally one night I realized it, and I rushed her to the hospital. Turns out that she had like gallbladder surgery from hell, and they took her gallbladder out, but they couldn't do it the easy way, and so they had to put like this 8-inch gash in her, and they went in with tubes, and it turned out that she had like 70-some gallstones laced all throughout her tubes. Now at that point, our kids, 3 little kids, were little, 4, 2, and just months old, and she came home from the hospital after 5 days. She couldn't lift, she could barely walk. And so in the midst of leading a ministry at this big mega church, which was always my dream, and then trying to get this big giant mega event planned, the partner that I had to bow out due to some family stuff, and so it was on me and this newly formed team. And what I should have done in April of 2005 is I should have just bowed out. I should have given up. I should have quit. But I didn't. In pride, I just was like, I gotta do this. I gotta do this. And so we had 50 bands and inflatable tents and stages, and lots and lots and lots of money went into this thing. And so finally, I actually left my job because my church came to me and said, "Hey, you've got to do one or the other. You can't do this thing." I thought, okay, I'm going to go lead a ministry. It's going to be fantastic. We had this dream of doing like a traveling conference around the country for students and teaching them how to love God and love others. And I was so pumped, taking a big giant leap of faith. And then here comes the day. We set everything up. I actually found this picture of the stage from the event. We got to the day of the event, and the problem was the event was great. The bands were great, the speakers were great, the fun was great, but nobody came. Nobody came. We needed like 5,000 people to recover our costs, and we had like 1,500 come, and it was just an absolute colossal failure. An absolute colossal failure. And I can remember that night, June 5th, wait, let me make sure I get the date right, because I have it here. June 3rd, 2005, I stood in a field in New Hudson, Michigan, and I looked up at the sky, and I screamed at God for hours and hours and hours. Hours. The reality was I was about 6 figures in the hole from that event, had no idea how to pay for it. All of the vendors were friends of mine, and I had no idea what to do because of my pride and my arrogance led me down this path where maybe I should have given up. But I didn't understand why God would allow this big, giant failure. And the problem was, like, everybody saw my failure. Everybody saw my failure. So I don't know if you've ever been in a moment where you've just wanted to give up. That night, on June 3rd, 2005, was the first time in my life, and the only time, the first and only time, that as I looked up at God, as I yelled at the sky, as I cussed him out like none other, I had very real thoughts about taking my own life. So how do you not give up on life? I realized a little while ago, about a year ago, I was at Thrive on a Sunday morning, and in the course of the couple hours I was there, I hugged 3 different people who had all attempted to take their life, but weren't successful. And that has weighed on me. To be able to hug someone who tried to take their life and it wasn't successful, and now they have this chance to live. How do you not give up on life? How do you not give up, right? Like, have you ever been there? Like, I'll give you another, maybe too transparent piece from my life. January 1st, 2018, I decide I gotta get my health in order. I can't do this anymore. And so I start writing in this journal my goals for my health plan. And I start tracking all of my weight and all of my workouts. And then came April, and I hit a monster wall. I had some relational stuff happen, relational pain with some relationships that just caused my thinking to go crazy. And then the physical stuff, and then my back wasn't doing very well, and then it came to a screeching halt. I gave up. How do you not give up? How do you not give up on life? How do you not give up? How do you get to the place where you realize even when pain is at its worst, God is up to something great? So if you're watching on either Raitz on Facebook.com or Jason Raitz Communications. I would love to know if you're watching. And I would love to know any of your comments or any of your thoughts on this matter. How do you not give up on life? How do you not give up on a project? How do you not give up? I remember in 2006, I saw that the Detroit Tigers were hiring. And I thought, oh my goodness, this would be fantastic to work for the Detroit Tigers. So I sent a resume. Well, it was a resume to be Paws. Do you know Paws? Like Paws, they're like their little mascot that runs around the field. And so I went and tried out to be Paws, and they sent me a rejection letter. Like they said, "Dear Jason, thank you for your interest in the Paws squad position. Unfortunately, we are unable to interview you, even though you're interested in this position. By reading your resume and knowing that you can't do a backflip, this is I couldn't do a backflip, so they wouldn't even consider me. Like, man, like I couldn't even be Paws. So how do you not give up? Pain, relational pain. We get our feelings hurt. We experience withdrawal. We have emotional pain. We give up our trust on someone because they've hurt us, or someone gets sick and we don't know why. The pain is overwhelming. Maybe you've been fired. Maybe you've invested money somewhere and it's gone bad. Maybe your kids have done something that just rocked your world. Maybe your kids did something that rocked their world. And so how do you not give up? I love what Helen Keller said. The world is full of suffering. It is also full of overcoming it. It is also full of overcoming it. So how do you not give up? I love what James said in James 1, 2, and 3. This is from the Message version. He said, consider it sheer gift, friends, when tests and challenges come your way from all sides. You know that under pressure, your faith life is forced into the open and it shows its true colors. So how do you not give up? How do you not give up? Well, maybe it starts with looking at the challenges that come at you as gifts. There's an author by the name of Tim Keller. He said, suffering is actually at the heart of the Christian story. I see this all the time as a pastor. People start coming to church, and then they make deeper commitments. Oh, I'm going to start giving. I'm going to start serving. And then as soon as they do, they're hit with suffering. Like the enemy throws everything at them to stop them. So how do you keep going? How do you keep going when stuff happens? And so I don't know what kind of stuff happens in your life. Scripture shows us a couple different things, like failure pains, right? Like we go all the way back to the Old Testament. Children of Israel, they're leaving Egypt. They're leaving. Everybody's happy. They get to a big massive water, and now they're all like, "What are you talking about? Like the Egyptians are going to kill us." Like, that kind of pain. I love what Tim Keller said. He said, suffering is unbearable if you aren't certain that God is for you and with you. Like, I can't imagine suffering without the knowledge that God is there with me. Like, that God is not there with me. Even when pain is great in your life, you've got to know that God is up to something great. God is up to something great. So maybe it's that kind of pain. Maybe it's your own fault kind of pain. In the Old Testament, 2 Samuel, we see King David. He made a colossally bad decision. And all this pain came into his life. And then there's the kind of pain or the kind of stuff that happens in life that who the heck knows why. I mean, the Apostle Paul wrote about this in 2 Corinthians. He said, 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Like even the Apostle Paul, the guy who wrote most of the New Testament, he's pleading with God, take this pain away from me. This night, like on June 3rd, as I thought about, like, do I want to keep going? I started thinking about that. I was just pleading with God. Even when pain is at its worst, God is up to something great. So how do you not give up? Okay, let me just give you a few potential things to remember. One, you've got to ask for help. You've got to ask for help. I love what Corrie ten Boom said. You may never know that Jesus is all you need until Jesus is all you have. You got to ask for help. There have been many times in the history of my life where I have not wanted to ask for help, especially when it comes to like financial stuff. Have you ever struggled financially? Maybe. Lots of people do. We have 5 kids, 3 with a genetic thing. It just seems like we can never catch up. This week it was just one of those weeks. The central air conditioning broke, and so like yesterday our house was, like 90 degrees inside the house. And then our dryer broke, and unfortunately they'll both be broke for a while. And that's okay. Like, we'll figure out how to get them fixed, but it's like some days, you ever just be like, ah! But there have been times where I've had to ask for help. I love what Psalms 34, 17 to 19 says. This is my favorite. Is anyone crying for help? God is listening and ready to rescue you. Like, have you asked God for help? Not just like the random, God, please help me. But have you ever had like you're up all night crying and pleading with God, kind of ask for help? In Psalms 34, it goes on to say, if your heart is broken, you'll find God right there. If you're kicked in the gut, he'll help you catch your breath. Disciples so often get in trouble. Still, God is there every time. The moment the worry comes on, or the moment the thought comes on where you want to give up, where you start entertaining moments of anxiety, or when it starts to overwhelm your life, right then and there, call out to God. Stop everything else you're doing. Close the screens, close everything else, and go right to God. So you got to ask for help. 2, take one day at a time. Take one day at a time. Stop taking all the pressures of the world and putting them on your shoulder. Like this to me has become the best tool in my arsenal to not want to give up. This has become the best tool to help me with the anxiety and the worry. And for me, it's praying Proverbs 3, 5 to 9. Like, to me, this has become the best. And so I take one day at a time and I pray this prayer. And honestly, I pray this prayer all day long. All day long. The moments where everything is just weighing so intensely, I pray it all day. And it goes like this. Trust God from the bottom of your heart. Don't try to figure out everything on your own. Listen for God's voice in everything you do, everywhere you go. He's the one who will keep you on track. Don't assume that you will know it all. Run to God. Run from evil. Honor God with everything. If you've memorized it from a different translation, trust in the Lord your God with all of your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. Acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will make your path straight. Pray that over and over. The book of Joshua talks about meditating on Scripture. So those moments where I want to give up, it's just too much. And there's a couple moments this week where we're just trying to get to June 1st as a family. There's just a couple moments. This is my prayer. God, I trust in you with all my heart. I lean not on my own understanding. I acknowledge you in all my ways. So that's 2, take one day at a time. And then 3, remember who you follow. Like, if you're a Jesus follower, remember who you follow. Colossians 3 says, so if you're serious about living this new resurrection life with Jesus, act like it. Pursue the things over which Jesus presides. Like act like it. Run towards Jesus. Be with him. This was like 13 years ago. The pain of this moment, the pain of wanting to take my life, can still come flooding into my memory if I think about that colossal failure. The people that I hugged that day who had tried to take their life and weren't successful, I said the same things that I'll say to you. Remember how valuable your life is. Remember the waves of sadness that you would leave. And remember that the God of the universe is so passionately in love with you that there is help, there are answers. So turn to him, run towards him. Even when the pain is at its worst, God is up to something great. Let me give you one other thing. And sometimes I've been made fun of because of this, but I think one of the greatest things about Facebook is being able to create a communication system to people in your life. And so I have this thing called the Raitz prayer group, where I put in prayer requests. And I know some of the people are probably like, oh, this is just ridiculous. But some of them take them really seriously. And I can tell when I go to speaking events, when I'm traveling, that I know people are praying for me. So get a team of people praying for you. I know I get passionate about this. My hands are going everywhere. But you have to. You have to get people praying for you. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up on life. Don't give up on life. One of the best things you can do if you're at that moment is to find a Christian counselor. If you need to find one, email me, jason.raitz@thrivechurchmi.cc. jason.raitz@thrivechurchmi.cc. And I'll help you find a Christian counselor, because a counselor can help you. A counselor can help you bring focus and clarity and think through some of these things. So don't give up. Let's have this kind of honest conversation, and let's not give up together, because awesome things can happen. I just turned down my volume. Sorry about that. Thank you for joining me. I tried to go a little bit shorter tonight. I would love to know some thoughts that you have in the comment section. Please comment. Please let me know other ways that help you not to give up, because it's pretty powerful. If you'd be so kind, you could find me on YouTube, Jason Raitz. I have a channel there. I would be honored if you'd subscribe. I'd be honored if you liked my Jason Raitz Communications Facebook page, and would appreciate that very, very much. Soon, I'll have a mailing list if you want to be on the mailing list and get different updates and prayer requests and things like that. And then I'm pretty excited that I'm starting to tell people October 22nd is going to be the book release party for the book I've been writing called Do Good. That's pretty much it. Do good. And so we're hopefully putting some of these stories that God has done in our life into a book, and we'll hopefully encourage people and motivate them to change the world, to change their world one life at a time. Okay, don't give up. I would love to talk to you. Let me know how I can be praying for you, but we can have this conversation together, and we can keep going together. Thank you for joining me tonight. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.